and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. I am your host, Kara R. Hunt, and with me is Sherry, awesome human being Swalwell. How are you doing today, Sherry?
I am doing fantastic. I love my iced coffee. I will never not love my iced coffee. But I decided so we have like a little guilty pleasure in our house. And that is I have started making iced coffee here at home. But I really hate like crushing up the ice myself. Like I've used our blender and I've used a hammer and not like a hammer. But
I was going to say a hammer.
Yeah, like a kitchen hammer, but then I end up breaking through all these bags and it just gets really expensive. So our middle is home. Our middle daughter, our only daughter, is home from college. And she's like, oh, Mom, you can buy ice right from Chick-fil-A and they've got really good ice. And so she bought it on a whim one time because we cannot, for the life of us, we have 4 people, whatever, in our house, and we cannot keep up with the influx of ice. Like we use so much ice. So it's either I, do it, and for whatever reason, our freezer doesn't freeze it really quickly either. So we always have to either buy ice or do something to ice or whatever. So long story short, Chick-fil-A has got the best ice. Like it is so awesome. It's like the right size and everything. And I always tell people, unless you have iced coffee or like an ice something, don't be wasting that ice. You can use the others, like cubes. You don't get to use the Chick-fil-A ice. Well, today I went to buy more, and I decided I was going to buy one of their cherry berry iced teas. Oh, my goodness. You can get it sweetened or unsweetened. You've got to try it. It is like so good. So it's just nice and refreshing. So that's what I'm sipping on this morning as we get ready to delve into or continue our talk about the New Testament. So, again, not an affiliate with Chick-fil-A, but they do have some really great ice.
Oh, I know, right?
And cherry iced tea. That's really. Oh, you also can get it as lemonade or like a frozen drink. You can get it all different kinds of ways. I just got the unsweetened iced tea, but it is so good.
I know. I was just thinking, I'm like, you and I sometimes go on and on about Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, they're probably going to think we're sponsored by them. Or we are affiliated with them in some kind of way. And the answer to that is no. Again, we're just consumers who just happen to really enjoy that particular restaurant. And everything else. As a matter of fact, if you ever hear Sherry and I talk about any type of product, whether it's coffees, teas, journals, books, Bibles, a Chick-fil-A, or anything like that, rest assured that that is just us talking, giving you guys a glimpse behind the curtain, so to speak, of the lives of Kara and Sherry, because the Cheer Up Podcast is not sponsored by any business or company. Okay, so it is literally just us sharing our likes and dislikes and some of the things we have just come across, in the past year or so, or, things that make us smile or, or something like that. But no, we're not sponsored by any company or affiliated with anyone. So I just want to throw that out there just in case somebody wondered. So we just want to say thank you all for listening to our chit chat and for just tuning in every week, saying hi, and just being here, just tuning in, just saying, hey, I want to get my dose of joy this morning, a little bit of inspiration, and find out maybe about some biblical figures along the way. Because that's what we've been talking about the past couple of months, since I believe February. And I think it was last week, Sherry, right, when we put our toe into the New Testament, right?
Yeah.
And so we're just starting with the New Testament. And again, we go through these stories and the people because thousands of years may have passed, but different people, same stories, right? The players have changed, but the story and the plot lines have not, and neither has the enemy's ways, the things he could try to use to distract, God's people. So we just kind of bring some of those things to light and just kind of see what they went through back in the biblical days. and how it reflects to us today. So, once again, thank you for tuning in. To all of our loyal listeners that show up every week, we thank you. We appreciate you. And so we all know that you could be doing something else, but you're tuning in to us today, and you have no idea how much we appreciate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We see you. We see everyone who's across the country, across the states, and those globally. So just thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you, and we're so glad you're here. And if you're being blessed by the podcast, then please share it with a friend. It helps us with the algorithm, and it will also help us to get to know them and your friends better. So you and your friends better. So if you're being blessed by it, please don't forget to share. We greatly appreciate it. All right. Last week, we started off the New Testament with Jesus, of course, you know. And so now we're going to delve into the Gospels a little bit over the next couple of weeks. And today we are starting with Matthew. Hi, Sherry, what is it that we should know about Matthew?
Well, first off, he was a tax collector. And as I was delving into it today and asking the Holy Spirit who he wanted me or what he wanted me to highlight about Matthew today, he just really downloaded a few thoughts. And they came from, I love my study Bible. It is the Bible, New International Version. And it has all of these really cool notes. And then it has like all of these really cool write-ups about different people in the Bible. And as I was reading the write-up about Matthew, it was so interesting. And it just really reminded me and confirmed to me, highlighted to me how, like you were saying, Kara, that these people may have lived thousands and thousands of years ago, but yet what they have to teach us is so relevant for us today in 2024 and beyond. And so Matthew was a tax collector. You can compare him to the other different disciples because some of them were fishermen. And one of the things that was highlighted to me was that the fishermen, they always could go back to the occupation if this Jesus thing didn't work out, which we all know the Jesus thing did work out because Jesus is the Son of God. But even when they were asked to follow him, if there was any doubt in the back of their mind, they could be like, okay, well, we still have an occupation we can go to. We can still be fishermen. We can still, we have a backup plan. Matthew didn't have a backup plan. He was a tax collector. And when Jesus said, come follow me, and he said, absolutely, and he dropped everything and went, he didn't have a backup plan. Like he quit and he burned bridges. So he was all in from the get-go. He was all in from day one. I'm not saying the other ones weren't, but I'm saying he had to be. Like he made that choice from the get-go. And so that really stuck out to me. That was really cool. Then as I was...
Because he had more to lose.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was Googling about him, somebody else, another commentary, made the comment about how there are verses in the Bible that talk about, or that Jesus said, I sit with sinners and tax collectors. And tax collectors were considered, quote unquote, sinners, not because they all were bad, but because they had a bad reputation. It would be like, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, but it would be like if, like mafia nowadays, like somebody who's corrupt and just trying to stick blow to the man. So, and Jesus was saying, I came for everybody. And he was so adamant about that. And he practiced what he preached, that he had Matthew in his posse. He had a sinner/tax collector in his posse from day one. And so that was another interesting tidbit about Matthew that I thought was really cool to bring out. And then it was talking about how Matthew, pre-Jesus, before Jesus came and invited him to be one of the disciples, he had a lot of experience with tax collecting. He had a lot of experience with accounting, with bookkeeping, with records, with all of those things. And Jesus is not stupid. Like, Jesus knows everything. And so he handpicked Matthew, and he said, from now on, you're going to record keep my life. You're going to document my journey, my mission, my purpose, my plan. And he knew that. And so it's really cool how Jesus knows everything, but how he took this tax collector and he gave him a choice. He said, come follow me. He didn't say you have to. He didn't say I'm commanding it. I'm forcing you. You have no choice. And he said, come follow me. Matthew came and followed him, and God picked up the pen of his story and rewrote a new history for him, a new purpose and a new mission and a new plan. And God does the exact same thing for us. So the things that we learn from, or one of the main encouragements that we can learn from Matthew is the fact that God knows our beginning, our middle, and our end. God is preparing us for our end by our beginning and our middle. And he did that for me too. And I remember I was a transcriptionist, a medical transcriptionist, another thing that Kara and I have in common. We both did that. And I remember saying, well, first off, I think it was like in 2007 or something when The Purpose-Driven Life became really popular by Rick Warren. And I remember reading that. And I also remember a friend of mine saying to me, and they didn't mean this in a bad way, but I was telling them what I did for a living. And the whole reason why I was a medical transcriptionist was so that I could stay at home with our kids and yet still earn a living, still help with our finances. And the friend said to me, they're like, ugh, what a horrible job. Like, I can't believe that that's what you do. That sounds so boring. And I thought, well, it's a job. It's not a purpose. It's not a mission. My mission, my goal in life is to be a stay-at-home mom. And if I have to do this for a living to accomplish my goal, my purpose, to be a stay-at-home mom, well, then so be it. I'll do this. I'll sling hamburgers. I'll, whatever it is that I have to do. And so I read The Purpose-Driven Life. And as I was reading that is kind of, well, I read that book. Then I read The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. And those two books combined changed my life. And they showed me that I had a purpose and a mission. And I remember looking back on it, and I remember thinking to myself, when God transitioned me out of medical transcribing and into fields that were more aligned with writing, because to this day, I still really don't consider myself an author. I consider myself God's secretary. All mistakes are mine. All praise goes to him. And when he has something else in mind for me to do, then I will hang up the writing and I will go and do that. But I remember thinking how God just has this amazing sense of humor, and he just has this, well, I call it a sense of humor, but honestly, I really just think it's an unconditional love, because I remember thinking to myself, he took 10 or 12 years to refine my writing skills, because I was someone that in high school, I got most improved writer. In my high school English class, I was tutored. Like, that's how bad I was. My mom was a reading and recovery teacher, and I didn't know a noun from a verb from an adverb. I didn't know any of that stuff. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I still do. I don't know if I could at least teach it to anybody. But I remember saying to God, I'm like, God, you are so awesome, because you literally took 10 years and taught me English and paid me for it. Like, you let me get paid for this. And that's kind of how I feel like Matthew is. Like, God prepared him ahead of time. He taught him the accounting skills. He taught him I don't even know what all kinds of skills go into tax collecting, but I'm kind of sure all kinds of math stuff and record keeping, because you got to have good books, or if you're cheating people, you got to have good books. And if you're not cheating people, you got to have good books, because you have to know what in the heck you're doing, either lying or telling the truth. So all of that kind of stuff. And he used all of that for his glory, so that Matthew could then, in turn, when it was his turn to change his purpose and his plan to be God's way, to be Jesus's way, he had the tools and the skills that were necessary. So I want to encourage people with that today. I'm not ending the thingy, but I'm just saying this is my encouragement. This is what God was kind of showing me, was that I have a friend, Evangelist John Ramirez, and he's always saying, God is writing your story. Let go of the pen and let God write your story. let God write your story. If you're in the middle of a valley, don't despair, because God is in the middle of writing your story. He's not done yet. And I just thought to myself, that is just so true, because that's exactly what he did for Matthew, and that's doing for us. So that is kind of what I wanted to highlight about Matthew today. And I just want to encourage people. I don't know where you're at in life. I don't know if you're where I was with the purpose-driven life, where I'm like, medical transcriptionist is not like my end-all be-all. It's not my goal. Not that that's a bad goal. It just wasn't my goal. My heart was always to just be home with my kids. And I knew God had something different for me, but I didn't know what it was. And honestly, if he had kept me in medical transcriptioning for the rest of my life, I would have been fine with it. I truly would have, because my goal, my heart was to be a stay-at-home mom, was to be the keeper of our house. And so that's my goal, or that's my encouragement today, is God is not done writing your story. So if you don't feel like you're where you're supposed to be, talk to him about it, pray about it, trust him, because he's using whatever it is in your life right now to prepare you for the wonderful things that he has for you. So, Kara, I'm going to toss it back over to you, because that's my words of wisdom today.
Well, I don't have much to add. A couple of things I wanted to piggyback on, though. Whoever said, "Oh my gosh, medical transcription, it has to be so boring," obviously has never been a medical transcriptionist. Okay, so I can't remember what department you worked for, but because I worked in-house and at home as a medical transcriptionist. So right outside the ER, and then, in radiology and cardiology and all these different fields, gastroenterology, neurology, and different things like that. But when I was working at home for as a medical transcriptionist, the main account I had was radiology. And boy, I never knew what I was going to wake up to that day, right? I mean, there were people who were coming in with nails in their hands because they were putting on a roof, and, they didn't move their hand in time. When they were putting the shingles on, there are people who came in because they chopped up almost off a toe with their lawnmower. There were so many, sad incidents with kids in the summer in pools, swimming pools. And just so many different things. Some would be funny, some were just heart-wrenching, and others were heartbreaking. So it was never, it's like when someone says it was boring, it's like, no, because you never know, because every few minutes you're getting a new patient with a new situation, or a new thing that's happening, and things like that. I mean, some were downright gross, some were super interesting. So, but it just goes to show. And for the heart, for the ones that were more lighthearted, and you're like, come on, those people should have known better, but they weren't seriously hurt, or it was something that could be easily fixed. But then when you got those heart-wrenching ones, that's when your job turns into a ministry, right?
Amen.
Going back to what you were saying about how God used Matthew, because as you're reading these heart-wrenching stories, these accidents that happened, and you're and you're transcribing what actually happened to their body during the process. And one of the hospitals I actually had to work for was a children's hospital, and that's all I'm going to say about that, because not just your typical childhood hijinks are in there, right? Falling off a skateboard, doing all this stuff. Of course, there's that. But then there are people who harm children, right? And they do it intentionally. And when these children have to be examined, and you're sitting there, have to transcribe it word for word, your prayer, your job turns into ministry, and you're praying for that child and for their recovery, for their healing, that the person will be caught, that the doctors will, be able to fix whatever was broken inside this tender, innocent child. So it is definitely not boring, and it just goes to show you that God can take even the messiest of circumstances, and he can have you minister to them. Now, that child, their family, that person who was hurt or in that car accident, they didn't even know I existed. Right? They didn't even know Sherry existed. We're on the other end. you know, we're not the faces they see. When they come in for emergency help or something like that. But God knew that we would be there.
Amen.
God knew that we would be there. God knew that we would be on the other end, and that even though it would be breaking our hearts of the things that we would have to be listening to and transcribing in graphic detail sometimes, that He knew that we were on the other side. Praying. Even through broken hearts and tears.
I'm going to interrupt you right there and say I wouldn't even be surprised if God purposefully assigned those ones to us because He knew we would pray.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I didn't even think of that, right? And because as we all know, reports like that goes into a pool for whichever transcriptionists get to it first, right?
Right.
And the ones that will come through to me, and so you're right. So we don't see all the behind the scenes or the moves that God is making. And so if you ever think that your job is boring or that it doesn't make a difference in a world, there's no purpose to it, think again. God can take anything and everything, any type of job, and turn it into a ministry, whether it be full-time ministry or, a case-by-case basis, type of ministry. And it's just amazing how God works. And we got to remember, back in biblical days, He was a tax collector. It's not like our IRS agents today, right? You can call them, you can give them your name and your social security number and or your tax ID number, and they could pull up all your information probably for the past 30, 40 years, right? Every tax, claim that you have filed, all your taxes back to who knows how many, and if you miss some years, they can tell you that, and they can tell you how much money you made each particular year, how much taxes you paid, and what you're paying taxes on. Mother didn't have that. He didn't have access to that. He was literally, I think back then, they went door to door, and you had to have all of that information on you, rather carrying it in a satchel or something, because, this person may have 100 donkeys and 500 goats, and so many servants on this much land, and like 8 camels. And the other person, maybe not so much. So it was like you had to have this information, with you, like at all times. So, but what's so important in that job? Details and excellent record keeping. You had to keep excellent records. You couldn't assign those 100 goats with one family and to another family if you were being honest. Okay.
Right.
If you were being honest, you had to be careful. You had to be very detailed, and you had to know what each family had, and everything they owned. You had to keep excellent record keeping, and so, like you said, Jesus used that to his benefit, right? Because He's like, you're used to doing this kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, start taking notes.
Right,
you already know how to do that anyway. Basically that's the Kara translation. But and everything else. So He took what He already did, whatever He already knew to do so well, and used it for His glory, for His kingdom, and for His ministry. So don't ever, just get dissuaded or down, or all I do is I go in and I twist a couple of bolts, and I shine up a piece of machinery and everything else, and you think that's all there is to it. No, there's so much skill that goes behind that God can use. So don't ever think there's no purpose to whatever assignment that you have now, because you never know. It could be a godly assignment. Like Sherry said, He could have you in that position for a particular reason. It could be just for a particular person as well. Okay, I'm done, Sherry.
Well, I just finished reading a book by somebody. I don't even remember who it is. It's a male author, and I wish I could remember the title of it, but he was talking about how he wanted to be in youth ministry, and he knew he was supposed to be in youth ministry. The people that he worked for knew he was supposed to be in youth ministry. His friends and family knew he was supposed to be in youth ministry. And God put him in roofing. Put him in roofing for like 5 to 10 years. I don't remember all the details. I just remember thinking, That is so true. How is God using him and preparing him? And he was using him because he was teaching him people skills. He was teaching him persistence. He was teaching him perseverance. He was teaching him patience. He was teaching him all kinds of things that he needed in ministry. And sometimes the best way to learn the skills that you need to step into the plan that God has for you is not in the actual department or the actual occupation of what your heart desires. Sometimes God needs to humble us. Sometimes God needs to put people in our path, and the only way we'll be on the path with those people is if we're in a job that's different from what we desire. Like, there's so many different avenues and different reasons and different things. And I guess I just want to encourage people today, if you're somewhere where you don't want to be, it's like, is this all that there is to life? Is there more to this life, or is this how I'm going to die? Is this it? Have that conversation with God and say, God, you know my heart's desire. You know what I want to do. You know how I want to serve you. You know what gifts you've given me, and what gifts you haven't given me, and what gifts I want to have, and blah, blah, blah. And then just trust him, because I love the verse in the Bible where it's Ephesians 3, I believe. Hold on, I have my Bible right here. I think it's Ephesians 3:23 and something else. Hold on. Ephesians 3:20 and 21. So now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, according to his power that is worked within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Don't discount God. Don't go into that mindset of, well, I want what he has. I want what she has. Because all that's going to do is frustrate you, and it's going to please the enemy, because he's going to be like, comparison, huh? Not happy, discontent, huh? This, that. No. God has, if you can trust him, if you choose to trust him, he will do far measurably more than you can ever ask or imagine. And I am telling you from experience, all I did was say to God, you know what, God, I don't think I want to be a medical transcriptionist my whole life. I think that I want to be in ministry. I think that you have something different for me. And that's all I did. That's all I said. I didn't set out to be a writer. I didn't set out to quit transcribing. I didn't set out for any of that stuff. He knew that my heart's desire was to be a mom, a stay-at-home mom. He knew that my heart's desire was to serve him, and he's the one that put it all into place. And I'll tell you, it's really hard sometimes, and I'm not where I want to be yet. But this year, he has taught me that when I let him write the story, when I give up control of the pen, he does far more for me than I could ever ask or imagine. And I know he has great plans, but I also know that he's been changing my heart, because he knows, and I know that my desire is to serve him wholeheartedly, 100%. And if I'm not ready yet, then I don't want to be promoted. I want to wait and make sure that God only promotes me when it's his timing and when I'm ready, because I don't want to screw anything up. I don't want to up people. I don't want to do something wrong because I haven't learned it the right way yet. I don't want to do that. And I also don't want to be so afraid of messing things up or messing people up, or, speaking wrongly, that I then drag my heels and don't go at God's pace. I want to go at God in God's timing. And when we can trust him, and when we can be honest with him and say, this is what I want. Obviously, Matthew was busy minding his own business, and Jesus came to him. Do we or do we not trust God that he can come to us when he's ready to promote us, when he's ready to flip the script, and when he's ready to change things up and give us our heart's desire in a different way? Do we trust I think that is the other question that I ask everybody today. Do we trust him? Is there anything else that you want to add, Kara?
No, except just stay encouraged, right? Just stay encouraged. And I guess all of us, for example, I was just thinking of a friend of mine who works in like a sandwich shop, and you would think, oh my goodness, like how boring is that? I mean, you can only make so many turkey, ham, chicken sandwiches, with lettuce and tomato, and things like that. Like, it, how boring is that? But you know the difference. And I'm pretty sure everyone has experienced this, where you go into like a sandwich shop and you customize, and you tell them you want this in your sandwich on this type of bread and all this stuff, and they hand it to you. You go about your day, but then you walk into a sandwich shop, and before you even get in the door, good, they're calling your name. Hey, Sherry, how are you? Oh my gosh, do you want this? You like that tuna salad, don't you? Oh my gosh. Okay, let me go ahead and get that ready for you. And they customize the experience, not just the sandwich. Right? And it's like they are doing that as if they are doing it unto the Lord, so to speak, right? Because they are making you feel special when you go in. And not only that, they get to know you as a person. They know your name, they know your favorite drink, they know your favorite type of sandwich, they know your, favorite type of snack or treat to go along with it. All of that makes a difference. And all of that is also customer service skills. And if you're ever going to go into any type of ministries, whether it's with children, little kids, well, even babies, right? On up to senior citizens, you need those type of skills, because people don't really, what is that old saying? People don't know how much you don't care what you know. They just want to know that you care. And a lot of times God has us in positions to for us to learn how to show that we care. Not that we don't care, but for us to put us in positions to learn how to show others that we care. And I think that's all I wanted to add to that, Sherry.
I am so glad that you did. That was the perfect way to end it. So I know that and I believe that Kara too, we would love to hear your stories. We would love to hear from
absolutely.
you how God is using you and preparing you, and the different testimonies that you have of how you're able to look back and see how God has prepared you and how God has used the different experiences that he's given you. So email us at cheeruppodcast@gmail.com, or head over to the Facebook group, Cheer Up Podcast, and start a conversation with everybody. And then we can all share in praising God about your different praises and prayer reports, or praise reports, and different testimonies of how God is using you and has prepared you for the work that he's had you step into. Go over to Kara R. Hunt. I think we talked about this in the last couple of weeks, but she now has audiobooks for all of her Paper Doll series. Is that correct, Kara? All of them?
Oh, yes. All 5 that are currently out, yes, they are all on audiobook. Yes. So if you like listening to your books, just go to Audible, audible.com, and you'll be able to just type in my name, and you'll be able to download them or upload them and listen to them, or just hit play.
Amen. I am so excited for Kara, because that is huge. I have so many friends who love audiobooks and love to listen to stories that way. And so head on over to Kara R. Hunt, or head on over to Audible, and you can download yours today. If I was you, I would start at the beginning, start with Paper Dolls, and then Paper Dolls Kite, Paper Dolls Priscilla, Paper Dolls Lydia, and Paper Dolls Eve. And she is working on Paper Dolls Mary, and I am so excited. I cannot wait to read Mary's story. I just absolutely love Kara's writing. I love the characters that she has created. They are my friends too. So head over and make them your friends as well. You can come over to my website if you want to. I have the 6-book fiction series, The Redemption of Green Pines. If you like shorter books instead, novellas or short stories, you can pick up The Seasons of Green Pines. There's 7 short stories there that kind of give you that little extra to learn about the different characters in the big full-length novellas. So you can check out either one of those. And don't forget that John 16:33 is our podcast verse. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And I think that even today's topic that we were talking about fits in with that really nicely, because Matthew, he kind of was going through a come follow me moment, and he didn't really know what all that entailed. So that can cause tribulation. Even good things can cause tribulation and trials. God says, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. He gives us peace in the midst of bad stress. And we really don't have to worry, because God is right there helping us along the way. So we are so glad that you were with us today. Have a great rest of your day today. And next week, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Mark, the second gospel in the New Testament. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.